Hello and welcome to another exam paper walkthrough. Today we're doing it with some people in the room. Today we're looking at GCSE past paper revision from Edexcel. We're looking at the higher tier. And the paper that we're going to be doing today is the November 2021 series, and we're going to be doing the paper 3. So in the link to this video, you will find a link that will take you to a PDF version or Word version of this paper. I would recommend that you've either done the paper beforehand or you do it alongside the video. And if you find this useful, subscribe if you like. Okay then, question 1. So I've just done the crossover version of this. So scatter graph shows information about the volume of traffic and carbon monoxide levels at a point on the road for 22 days. One point is an outlier, write down the coordinates of the point. You don't have to, but I would always recommend circle the outlier and then give the coordinate. So the coordinate of that is 118. Second part, for another day, 370 cars past the point on the road, estimate the carbon monoxide levels on that day. So we need to draw a line of best fit for this. For your line of best fit, you just want a line that roughly matches the data. So I'm going to go with something like that. So I'm going to go roughly there. And then for 370, I'm going to go up and across. Keep twisting it. So I make that pretty much bang on 14. Okay, and the final part of this then, Alfie says, because there is an outlier, there is no correlation. Is Alfie correct? You must give a reason for your answer. Alfie is not correct, so is Alfie correct? No. Outliers can be ignored in correlation. Okay, question 3. Natalie makes potato cakes in a restaurant. She mixes potato, cheese and onions so that weight of potatoes to weight of cheese to weight of onions is 9 to 2 to 1. Natalie needs to make 6,000 grams of potato cake. Cheese costs £2.25 for 175 grams. Work out the cost of cheese needed for 600 grams of potato cakes. So we've got potato, cheese to onion in a ratio of 9 to 2 to 1. And we want to find the amount of cheese needed for a recipe of 6,000 grams of potato cakes. So to do this then, I'm going to say that we have got a total of 12 parts. So 6,000 divided by 12 is going to be equal to 500. So each part is going to be worth 500 grams. So 2 parts is going to be 1,000 grams. So we want the cost of 1,000 grams of cheese. So to do that, we do 1,000 divided by 175, and we want to times that by 2.25. And that will give us our price straight away. You don't need to worry about any of that multiplication. We can use our calculator for that. If I can bring my calculator up, we can anyway. Right, so I'm going to type it in just like that. A fraction, 1,000 divided by 175. And then I'm going to times that answer by 2.25. I typed something in wrong. Let's have a look. There we go. I missed out my multiplication. So as a decimal, that's going to be 12.8. So I'm going to go 12.857. I'm going to get rid of that. 1 4 dot 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 dot. So work out the cost of cheese. I'm going to go £12.85. Sorry, £12.86 would be my price. Let's clear up that 6. Okay, question 3, right, 4.5 times 10 to the 5 is an ordinary number. So as an ordinary number, in effect, we're moving the 5 place values larger. So that the 4 would represent 400,000. So we're going to go 4, 5, and I need to move it another 4 places, so 4 zeros. So 450,000. Part B, write this one in standard form, so that's going to be 7 times by 10 to there, and we've moved it 3 places, so it's going to be to the -3 because it's a number less than 1. For part C, I would just get my calculator to do this. So 4.2, standard form button is this one next to the decimal point. 3, and to that I want to add on 5.3, standard form button 2. As a 2-mark question, I'm going to imagine that this will give me a integer answer, and then I'll need to convert it. So the calc gives me 4,730. So that number in standard form is going to be 4.73 times by 10 to that, and I've moved it 3 places. So 4.73 times 10 to 3. Okay, question 4. A water tank is empty and it needs to fill the tank with 2,400 litres of water. Company A supplies water at a rate of 8 litres in 1 minute 40 seconds. Company B supplies water at a rate of 2.2 gallons per metre. 1 gallon is equal to 4.54 litres. Company A would take more time than Company B would take. How much more time? Given your answer in minutes, correct to the nearest minute. So we're going to just stick with working in minutes here. So Company A is going to take 2,400 divided by 40 seconds is 2/3 of a minute. So I'm going to call it 2/3 of a minute. So I'm going to divide that by 8 and then times it by 1 2/3. We could use the time function for this, although I don't really think it's particularly useful. This was on the foundation paper and I showed it using the time function, but I don't think it was particularly helpful. So if I enter a mixed fraction, I want to times by shift and then the fraction button 1 and that's going to take me 500 minutes. So that's Company A. So Company B, a very similar process, although we've already got it in times per minute, so I don't need to do this multiplication part for this one. But I do need to convert this into litres. So I'm going to do 2,400 divided by 2.2 times by 4.54. And that will give me 2,400 over 2.2 times by 4.54. So that's going to take me 240.288 minutes. So the question actually asks, though, how much more time given your answer in minutes correct to the nearest minute. So I need to do 500 minus 240.288 dot dot dot. And I'm going to keep that exact. So that's the answer in my calculator at the moment. So I'm just going to do 500 minus that answer. So 259.7116 dot 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 being exact. So to the nearest minute, that's going to be 260 minutes. Okay, question 5 then. First 4 terms of a Fibonacci sequence are A, 2A, 3A, 5A. The sum of the first 5 terms of the sequence is 228. Work out the value of A. Well, the next term in the sequence is going to be 8A. So if we add all those up, we're going to get 13, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 19A is going to be equal to 228. So A is going to be equal to 228 divided by 19, 12, 12. So A, that should be an A, not a 9. A is going to be equal to 12. Right, question 6. In a bag, there are only red counters, blue counters, green counters, pink counters. A counter is going to be taken at random from the bag. The table shows the probability of taking a red counter or a blue counter. The probability of taking a green counter is 0.2 more likely than the probability of taking a pink counter. Complete the table. Probability of taking a green counter is 0.2. So I've just spotted I actually did this wrong on the foundation tier. I got my pink and green the wrong way around. But no major drama. So the probability of picking a green is 0.2 more than the probability of picking a pink. So if I call the pink X, that would be X plus 0.2. And they would all need to add up to 1. So 0.5 plus 0.15 is 0.2. So currently we've got 0.4 in terms of numbers, plus 2 lots of X, and that's going to be equal to 1. So 2X is going to be equal to 0.6, so X is going to be equal to 0.3. Meaning that the probability of it being pink is 0.3 and the probability of it being green is 0.5. And when I did this on the foundation tier, I got those two the wrong way around, but I don't think it's a major issue. Okay, and part B, there were 18 blue counters in the bag. Find the total number of counters in the bag. So blue counters, so what we would need to do there is 18 divided by 0.15. So there's going to be 120 counters in the bag. Okay, question 7. This diagram shows a sector OPQR of a circle with center O and radius 8. OPR is a triangle. Work out the area of the shaded segment PQR. So if we look at the area of the sector first of all, that's a quarter of a circle, so it's a quarter of pi r squared, which in this case, if r is 8, 8 squared is 64, divided by 4 is 16, so that would be 16 pi when we tidy it up. The area of the triangle is going to be a half of the base times height, so half of 8 times 8, so half of 64, so that's going to be 32. So the area of the segment, so a seg, is going to be equal to 16 pi minus 32. And now we'll go decimal. 16 shift pi minus 32 is going to be 18.265 ... So I've not rounded yet to 3 significant figures. That's the third significant figure, which we would round up, so that's going to be 18.3. Okay, y is directly proportional to x, so directly proportional is going to be a straight line going through the origin. So that's my directly proportional. Inversely proportional means as one goes down, the other goes down. So as one goes down, the other. Got a feeling my sheet's going to be awkward again. Okay, so as one goes down, the other goes up. So that's kind of my indirectly proportional one. Okay. And question 9. On Monday, 12 people took 5 hours to clean a number of cars. On Tuesday, 15 people cleaned the same number of cars. Assuming that all people worked at the same rate, how many hours did the 15 people take to clean the car? So I tend to do this in a fairly straightforward way. It is inverse proportion, although to be fair, the way I would look at it is if we have 12 people working for 5 hours, it means that in effect we've had 60 hours worth of work done. If we've then got 15 people working to cover the same amount of work, we're going to do 60 divided by 15, which is 4. So it will take them 4 hours. The assumption is wrong. How might this affect the time taken for the 15 people to clean the car? So if they don't all work at the same rate, it could take different. I'm not quite sure. It could take more time or it could take less time. Those are really your only two options. So if they work faster, would take less time. Could have the opposite. If they work slower, it would take more time. Okay, question 10. The diagram shows two right-angled triangles. We've given some of the lengths. Calculate the length CB, giving it as correct 2 decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to put some of these. This is going to be similar triangles question. So I've read it through once. I get the impression it's a similar triangles question. Let's put in the information that we're given. So we're told that A to D is 9. We're told that D to E is 2. And we're told that D to B is 6. And the length it is asking us to work out is the bottom length. Let me just double check in my head that I've done all of that correctly. 9 is A to D, 6 is D to E, and D to E is 2, D to B is 6. Okay, so I want to work out this length first of all, and I'm going to use a bit of Pythagoras. No, I'm going to use similar shapes and a bit of Pythagoras. Now I'm going to work out similar shapes for that. So in effect, 6 over... so just to keep it nice and simple, I'm going to say that 2 over 6, so that's the ratio of that to that, is going to be equal to the ratio of that to that length. So it would be x over 15. And then if I do a little bit of cross multiplication or simplifying, we can actually see that to get from there to there, we're dividing by 3. So x is going to be equal to 15 divided by 3, so it would be 5. But we were asked to work out CB. So in effect, now what we've got is this side is 15, this side is 5, and we want to work out this side here, which I'll call y now. So using Pythag, y squared is going to be equal to 15 squared minus 5 squared. So 15 squared minus 5 squared is going to give me 200. So the square root of that is going to be 2 root 10. And I'll actually do it over, I should have set out this slightly better. 10 root 10, so what I'll kind of move over here. Y is equal to 10 root 10, which as a decimal would be 14.14, 21, so to 2 decimal places that's going to be 14.14. Okay, Freya writes down the value of x correct to 1 decimal place. She writes 6.4, complete the error interval for x. So it's been written to 1 decimal place as 6.4. So it's been rounded to 6.4 as opposed to 6.3 or 6.5. So the smallest number that would be rounded to 6.4 as opposed to 6.3 would be 6.35. And the largest number would be 6.45, although we'd need it, couldn't actually be equal to that. So our error interval is 6.35 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 6.45. Okay, question 12. Work out the value of a and the value of n. Okay, so I'm going to look at simplifying this as much as I can first of all. So a to the 1 over n is x to the 6 over n is equal to 7 to the x cubed. So I've just kind of multiplied out or expanded this. So that tells us then that I'm going to start with this part here. So 6 over n must be equal to 3, so n must be equal to 2. So based on that, a to the 1 over 2 must be equal to 7. So a must be, in effect, we'd square both sides, so a must be 40. A must be equal to 49. I'm looking at a being 49 and n being 2. It's quite a difficult question for 2 marks. Okay, question 13. So a pattern is made from 4 identical rectangles. Sides of the rectangle are parallel to the axes. Point A has a coordinate of 3, 4, so that's that point there. Point B has a coordinate of 11, 20. Point C is marked on the diagram. Work out the coordinate of C. You must show how you got all your working. Okay, so for now, what I'm going to call is, let me just double check a couple of pointers. Okay, so I'm going to call the dimensions of the rectangle x and y. And that will be true for all of them. And then I'm going to look at differences between there and there. If I look at between A and B, if I look at the change in, it doesn't really matter which one I go first. If I look at the change in x first of all, change in x, it's gone y plus y minus x. So 2y minus x has to be equal to the difference in the x coordinate. So the difference in the x coordinate is 8. And then if I look at the change in coordinates between A and B in the y-axis, I've gone x plus y plus x. So I've got 2x plus y, let's double check that, x plus y plus y. I've got that the wrong way around. So let's just double check. X plus y, so that's 2y plus x. And the difference in the y coordinates is, I've gone from 4 up to 20, so there's a difference of 16. So let me just check that. So I've got my simultaneous equations. So difference in x is, first of all, I've got y plus y minus x. So yeah, I agree with that. And then looking at my y differences, I'm going x plus y, so I agree with that. So if I call that equation 1 and equation 2, if I add those two equations together, so equation 1 plus equation 2, I get 4y is equal to 24, meaning that y is equal to 6. If I substitute that value for y into one of the equations, doesn't really matter which. So let's substitute into the first equation. 2 lots of y, so 12 minus x is equal to 8. So that tells me that x is going to be equal to 4. If I check that with the equation 2, 2 lots of y would be 12, plus x would be 4, and that would be equal to 16. So yeah, we're right there. So that's not quite the question finished. The question asked us for the coordinates of point C. The coordinates of point C are going to be 3 plus y, so 3 plus 6, comma 4 plus x. So it's going to be 9, 12. 9, 8, sorry. And I've just looked back, and it's only at the final point that I spotted this. I probably should label them the other way around. I've called the difference in the y-axis x and the difference in the y-axis x-axis y, which might be a bit confusing, so apologies. But that method is sound. That would be your answer, your coordinate. Okay, question 14 then. Oliver and Jessica have in total as many sweets as Fran and Gary have in total. Fran and Gary share their ratios in the ratio 2 to 3. Oliver and Jessica share their ratios in the ratio 9 to 1. Fran has got W sweets, Gary's got X sweets, Oliver's got Y sweets, Jessica's got Z sweets. Find in the simplest form W to X to Y to Z. Okay, so let's just kind of start it off. So we can't combine these yet, but I'm going to kind of set it up for a combination. F to G to O to J. So first of all, in effect, they have equal amount of sweets to each other, so we can say that their shares are 1 to 1, which we'll use shortly. Fran and Gary share the ratio in 2 to 3. So we've got a ratio of 2 to 3 happening there. Split that though, because these aren't equal at the moment. And Gary and Jessica share in the ratio of 9 to 1. Okay, so that means that they've got 10 parts to share. Well, O and J have got 10 parts, F and G have got 5 parts. So we can't share them until they have equal parts. So what we're going to do is create both of 10 parts. To do that, all I've got to do is double this one. So I've got 4 to 6, and now I can combine them 9 to 1. And I've misread one crucial part to this question, and it doesn't really affect anything up until this point here. The bit that I misread, they don't have the same amount of sweets. Oliver and Jessica have half the total, have in total half as many sweets as Fran and Gary have in total. So Fran and Gary, I would need 2 lots of this to be equal to 1 lot of this. Which would mean I'd need 4 times as many of this. So to combine them, I'd need 4 times as many of this. So that would be 4 to 12. No, what am I talking about? 4. 2 times by 4 would be 8. 3 times by 4 would be 12. To 9 to 1. And that would be my combined ratio. Just to recap what I've done there then, so in effect you're told at the start, which I misread, O and J have in total half as many sweets as F and G. So that means that I would need twice, yeah, so O and J would need twice as much to be equal to 1 of F to G. Yeah. Okay, question 15. The graph gives the volume of water in litres in a container at a time t seconds after the water started flowing out of the container. Use the graph to work out an estimate for the rate at which the water is flowing out of the container at t is equal to 12. You must show your working. So t is equal to 12 would be at this point here. What we need to do is find the gradient of the line at that point. So gradient of the line is going to be, in effect, I'm looking for kind of a tangent. So I want a line that just touches. That looks pretty, might be out by a degree. So I want, there we go, that looks pretty close. So I want to work out the gradient of that line. So if I work out the gradient of that line, I'm going to take as big a triangle as I can. So I'm going to do, the gradient of that line is going to be equal to 28 or minus 28 over, that looks like 29. So the gradient of that curve is going to be equal to 28 divided by 29. So we're looking at technically, I don't think I can write very well with my rulers on the screen. Right. So we're looking at, technically it's minus 0.9655 1 dot dot dot. It says though, estimate the rate at which the water is flowing out. So it's already assuming that we're going to have a negative value. So I'm going to go 0. Let's say 97. And the mark scheme says accept anything in the range of 0.7 to 1.1. Okay, so question 16. The curve C has the equation y is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 3. The line L has the equation y minus 5x plus 4 is equal to 0. Show algebraically that C and L have exactly 1 point in common. So showing that algebraically, what we're going to do is put the two equations equal to each other and then show that there's only one solution. So let's try and do that. So I'm going to substitute that in for that value there. So if I just put it in a bracket to start with, that would give me x squared plus 3x minus 3 minus 5x plus 4 is equal to 0. So let's take the brackets out and tidy up. So that gives us x squared minus 2x minus 1, sorry, plus 1 is equal to 0. And if we imagine, this works out very well actually. To factorize that, both brackets would need to start with x, And then I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to make +1 and add together to make -2. So that's going to be -1 and -1. So that solution to that is -1 squared is equal to 0. So so the only way that x can be equal to 0 is when x is equal to 1 is the only solution. The x would be equal to 1 and y would be equal to, wouldn't particularly matter, but y would be equal to 1 as well, I think. Okay, question 17. X is directly proportional to the square of y. Y is directly proportional to the cube of z. When z is equal to 2, when x is equal to 32, find a formula for x in terms of z. So if we start putting this information in, so x is directly proportional to the square of y, so kx squared. I've done that the wrong way around. Ky squared, and then you're told that y is equal to, I'm going to use a different letter to k, I'm going to use mz cubed. Z is equal to 2 when x is equal to 32. Find a formula for x in terms of z. So I'm going to look at combining those two formulas now. So I need to combine these to make this slightly easier for myself. What I'm going to do is say that y squared is going to be equal to m squared z to the power 6. Then I can combine them a bit easier and say that x over k is going to be equal to y squared. So x over k is going to be equal to m squared z to the power 6. So x is going to be equal to km squared z cubed to the power 6. That's just a constant, so we don't really need to worry about the constant, the k and the m's. If we go straight to this then, so 32 is going to be equal to a constant, which I'm now going to rename Lmn times z to the, times by 2 to the power 6. 2 to the power 6 is going to be 64. So 32 is going to be equal to m times 64. So n is going to be equal to 64, other way around, 32 over 64. So it's going to be equal to a half. So I can now say that my actual formula is going to be x is equal to a half of z to the power 6. Yeah, that would work. Okay, question 18. So OABC is a trapezium, and we're given some ratios. Work out D to E. Given your answer in terms of A and B. Okay, to help me out with this then, O to D and D to M is the ratio 2 to 3. So that means that that's 2/5 of the length, and that would be 3/5 of the length. And then we're told B to E and E to C is 1 to 5, 1 to 4, so that's 1/5 of the length, and that is 4/5 of the length. Right, so I need the easiest route to get D to E. So I'm going to suggest that it is going to be 2/5 of O to B plus 1/5 of beta C. I'm going to work those out separately. So O to B is going to be equal to just A plus B. And B to C is going to be equal to minus B minus A plus 3B, which would be minus A plus 2B. And then I can kind of go from there. So I'm looking at 2/5 of A plus B plus 1/5 of minus A plus 2B. So I've got 2/5 minus 1/5, so that's going to be 1/5 of A plus 2/5 of B Now, so to get from there to there, to get from D to E, what I want is that length there, which would be 3/5 of O to B. And then to that, I want to add on 1/5 of B to E. So let me clear that up. B to C, sorry. Okay, so that gives me, that gives me 3/5 of A plus 1/5 of A minus 1/5 of A would be 2/5 of A. And then 3/5 of B plus 2/5 of B would be just plus B. So I'm looking at 2/5 of A plus B. Okay, and question 19. At the start of year N, the number of animals in a population was Pn. At the start of the following year, the number of animals in the population is Pn plus 1, where Pn plus 1 is equal to K times Pn. At the start of 2017, the population was 4,000. At the start of 2019, the population was 3,610. Work out the constant value of K. So, I'm going to say that so I need to really combine this for 3 years. So if in 2017, Pn would be equal to K times Pn. In 2018, Pn plus 1. Sorry, let's start that again. In 2017, the population is going to be Pn. In 2018, Pn plus 1 is going to be equal to Pn, K times Pn. So in 2019, Pn, in effect, Pn plus 2 is going to be equal to K squared of Pn. And then we're given these two figures. So in effect, we're saying that 3,610 is going to be equal to k squared times by 4,000. Just a zero there. So we're saying that k squared is going to be equal to 3,610 divided by 4,000. And so k is going to be equal to the square root of 361 over 400. So it's 19 over 20. Although you could go decimal, decimal would be 0.95. Does it ask for decimal? It just says find the value of k. 19 over 20 would be perfect. Okay, question 20. Pat throws a fair coin n times. Find an expression in terms of n for the probability that Pat gets at least one head and at least one tails. Okay, so for this, I'm going to say this length here is common to both sides. So for now, I'm going to call this, let's say, y. And the angle that I'm going to kind of use is this one here as well. Okay, so AB over BD. So AB is going to be equal to AB over, if I call that angle Z, AB over sine ADB is going to be equal to BD over sine X. Okay, so for this, we're on the right lines here. So if I kind of rearrange this, so that means that AB over AD is going to be equal to the sine of ADC, ADB over the sine of X. If I do the same thing for the other triangle, and this time if I say that AC over sine of ADC is going to be equal to DC over the sine of X, then rearranging that, I would get that AC over DC is going to be equal to the sine of ADC over the sine of X. And then this is the slight bit that I struggled with, just getting around it in my head. We do have a relationship between ADB and ADC. So either way around, I'm going to say that ADC is going to be equal to 180 minus ADB. And then if you think about the sine curve, what you've got is starts at 0 when the angle is 0, and then it hits 0 again at 180. So actually, if I think about the sine of any angle less than 180, the sine of that angle will be equal to 180 minus that angle, which means that those two are actually equal. So they're not equal in size, but the sine of their angles would be equal. So the sine of ADB would be equal to the sine of ADC, which means that in effect AB over AD would be equal to AC over DC, as they'd both be equal to the sine of ADC over the sine of X. That's how you do that question. Do you think that's an awkward one, particularly that recognition? But that brings us to the end of that paper. Before I sign off, I just want to show you the marks, the grades, and then a quick look at the skills for this paper. So, grade boundaries for that paper. You're looking at 12 marks for a 4, 21 for a 5, 30 for a 6, 40 for a 7, 50 for an 8, and 61 for a 9. Skills map, and this is linked to the video. So we've got a mass exodus in the room at the moment, just hold on a second. So the skills map for this paper, so it will be linked to the description and to the chapter titles. But those are your 23 questions. If you particularly struggled with, for example, question 13, that's translate situations of procedures into algebraic expressions. Those will be the chapter headings for this paper. The most complicated or lowest marked questions on that paper were question 20 and question 23. Thank you very much for your time in watching the video. Hope you found it useful, and subscribe if you like.